Quit studying. You are wasting your time. Let me guess, you've been studying for hours, but when the test comes, you blank out like a Wi-Fi router after a thunderstorm. You read, you highlight, you reread, you highlight again. You even made color-coded notes that look prettier than a Pinterest board. But when the grades come out, yeah, it's bad. Well, guess what? It's not your fault. You were never taught how to study, only that you should study. So today I'll show you how to actually study before it's too late. You'll learn why your study sessions feel useless, how your brain actually learns, and the exact methods that can make you unstoppable. And don't worry, this isn't one of those boring self-help lectures. We're about to roast your bad study habits, fix them, and make your brain work smarter than your smartphone. Let's begin. Part 1. The biggest study mistakes and why you're wasting time. Here's a hard pill to swallow. Most people don't study. They just perform the illusion of studying. You know the routine. Open the book, stare at the words, highlight a few lines, scroll through your phone, and call it a day. That's not studying. That's academic cosplay. Let's break down the biggest mistakes that make your study sessions completely fruitless. First mistake, passive reading. You think that reading equals learning, but reading is like watching someone else go to the gym. It doesn't make you stronger. Studying without actively engaging is a huge error. If you want to learn how to swim, would you read a book about it and then dive into the pool expecting to be an expert? Of course not. Most students do the same thing when studying. They read the textbook, watch the lecture, and then assume they've learned the material. However, this approach doesn't work unless you actively engage with the material by testing yourself, teaching it to someone else, or practicing. Second mistake, over-highlighting. You highlight every other sentence like it's a crime scene, thinking you'll review it later. Spoiler, you won't. The majority of students believe that highlighting their textbooks and reviewing previously covered information would aid in memorization. However, research has shown that rereading only results in a 10% retention rate, meaning that even if you reread a whole chapter today, by next week you will have forgotten 90% of what you read. Recognizing the words on the page gives you a sense of accomplishment, but that's not the same as really comprehending or memorizing them. Do you really become an expert at filmmaking if you watch the same movie over and over again? No, you're just getting familiar with the story. Third mistake, cramming. You wait until 11 p.m. the night before the exam, powered by caffeine and anxiety, and try to jam an entire semester into one night. That's not learning. It's panic disguised as productivity. Let's be honest, we've all done it. Stayed up all night, drank too much coffee, and crammed for a test. The problem is, that approach doesn't work in the long run. Sure, you might retain some information for tomorrow's test, but after a few days, most of it is gone. Your brain discards crammed information like junk mail because it knows you don't really need it. You're just forcing it in without giving it a reason to hold on. So if you think, I only need to remember this for the test, you're missing out on real success in college and beyond. Fourth mistake, multitasking. You're listening to music, checking your messages, and convincing yourself you're focusing. The human brain can't multitask. It just switches between distractions faster than your ex changes moods. The truth? Studying isn't about time spent. It's about how you spend that time. You could study for 2 hours and retain nothing, or study for 30 minutes the right way and master a topic. So, let's fix that. Part 2. How to study the right way. Imagine your brain as a muscle. If you don't push it, it doesn't grow. So studying should feel a bit like a workout. Not painful, but challenging enough that you know it's working. Here's the golden rule. Don't aim to read, aim to remember. That means shifting from passive learning to active learning. Instead of pouring information into your brain, you have to make your brain pull it out. That's where the real learning happens. It's like the difference between watching a YouTube tutorial on swimming and actually jumping into the pool. You don't learn by watching, you learn by doing. Part 3. The power of active recall. Active recall is the single most effective study technique ever discovered, whilst most students never use it. Here's how it works. Instead of rereading notes, you test yourself on the material. For example, don't reread your history chapter on the French Revolution. Close the book and try to explain what caused it. Struggle to remember. That struggle, that mental friction, is how your brain builds long-term memory. Your brain is lazy. If you keep spoon-feeding it information, it won't store it. But if you make it work to retrieve the answer, your brain goes, "Oh, this must be important. Let's keep it." Real-life proof? A 2011 study from Purdue University found that students who used active recall outperformed those who just reread notes by up to 50%. So next time you study, do less reading, more remembering. Ask yourself questions. Quiz yourself. Use flashcards? Or explain the topic to your wall. It won't judge you. Part 4. The Learning Pyramid. Let's talk about something most schools ignore in the learning pyramid. It's a model showing how much we actually remember depending on how we learn. You retain about 5% of what you learn from lectures, 10% from reading, 20% from watching videos, yes, even this one, 50% from group discussion, 75% from practicing by doing, and a whopping 90% when you teach someone else. In other words, you learn best when you stop being a student and start being a teacher. So if you really want to master a topic, try explaining it to a friend. Or even to your pet. Your cat might not care about calculus, but your brain will. The takeaway: the more active and involved you are in the process, the deeper the learning sticks. Part 5. The Feynman technique. Now let's talk about the genius move and literally. Physicist Richard Feynman, one of the smartest humans ever, had a ridiculously simple way to learn anything. Explain it like you're teaching a 5-year-old. That's it. The Feynman technique has 3 steps. Learn it. Study the concept normally. Explain it simply. Pretend you're teaching it to a kid. If you can't, you don't really understand it. Find the gaps. Go back, fix what you don't understand, and simplify it again. Why does this work? Because you're forcing your brain to organize and clarify information instead of just memorizing it. When you can explain something clearly, you've mastered it. If you need big words to describe it, you probably haven't. Part 6. Study smart, not hard. Let's look at how this works in the real world. Take Elon Musk. He's known for learning entire industries from scratch. Rockets, AI, cars, you name it. His secret? He breaks complex topics down to first principles, the fundamental truths, and rebuilds his understanding from there. That's basically Feynman's method in action. Or medical students. They survive by using spaced repetition and active recall with flashcards. They don't read books over and over. They test themselves every day. Even professional chess players don't memorize moves. They practice scenarios, forcing their brain to retrieve patterns. So, studying smarter isn't about being a genius. It's about using strategies that geniuses use. Part 7. How to build a study system that works. All right, let's put it all together. Here's how to study the right way. Firstly, plan short, focused sessions. 30 to 50 minutes max, then break. Your brain hates marathons but loves sprints. Secondly, test yourself constantly. Turn notes into questions. Use flashcards or apps like Anki. Thirdly, teach what you learn. Summarize out loud or explain it to someone. Fourthly, mix topics. Study different subjects in one session. This strengthens memory connections. And lastly, sleep. No, seriously. Sleep cements learning. Pulling all-nighters kills retention. Studying isn't about grinding, and it's about strategy. You don't need 10 hours a day, and you just need to make those 2 hours actually count. In conclusion, here's the truth. Studying isn't about grades. It's about learning how to learn. Because once you master that, you can learn anything. Your brain isn't broken. You just haven't been using it right. So the next time you open a book, remember, don't just read, recall. Don't just memorize, explain. Don't just study harder, study smarter. Because the real test isn't the one in school, it's life. And in life, the people who keep learning never lose. So learn how to study before it's too late. If you gained insight from this video, make sure to share it with a friend. And don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next video. Always remember, leave smarter. Thanks for watching.